Can a 4-day work week actually work? Significantly reduced stress and illness are some of the findings of a recent research study. But can a 4-day work week actually work? Well, let's find out. A 6-month trial of the 4-day work week was studied by a team of researchers at these places: the University of Cambridge in the UK, Boston College in the US, and a London-based think tank called Autonomy, as well as a 4-day week global and UK's 4-day week campaign. And they got together and they studied 61 companies, and something like 2,900, close to 3,000 workers participating in this trial. And they studied it from June of 2022 to December of 2022. And this made this the largest trial of its kind so far in the world. The idea of I keep gonna say this wrong, a 4-day working week, 4-day work week, has become increasingly popular in recent years. It's not a new idea, but many companies have implemented it with positive results. But is the 4-day work week a viable solution for all businesses? Well, the study found 39% of employees were actually less stressed by the end of the study, of the trial period, and 71% of them had reduced levels of burnout. Now, I'm not sure how they measured that, but they're researchers. They know what they're doing. So they would have figured that out. The report itself says that levels of anxiety, fatigue, and sleep issues decreased. Sorry, my phone keeps, you think by now, after 10 years of podcasting, I would know to make sure it's on silent. Sorry about that. But yeah, the report itself says that levels of anxiety, fatigue, and sleep issues decreased, while mental and physical health both improved. So that's good. Of the companies that were studied, 56 of the 61 companies that participated in the trial have said that they are going to continue with the 4-day working week, at least for now. Although 18 of the companies were so taken with it that they have already implemented this permanently as how it's going to be. So there was a lot of positivity about it. But it's not just about changing hours. It's about changing it could be, but it's also about changing how people actually work. There's a lot of wasted work time in many companies, in many instances. And some of the companies who make this shift successfully do things like they find ways to boost their efficiency. They go around looking for deficiencies, try to increase their efficiencies. They look for ways to streamline how they do things. And so that wasteful activities are eliminated. Can you imagine if you didn't actually have to meet for 3 hours for that meeting, or you didn't have to meet at all? Or maybe there are particular things that have become part of that company culture that don't actually need to exist. So there would be things that they could go around figuring out. And then the individuals as well, the individual people, if they were motivated to have an extra day off, would get down to business and be more productive instead of maybe taking time or wasting time or doing things in less efficient manners. So there's that. There are a couple of ways that companies could implement the 4-day work week. They could add hours to the 4 days. So instead of 8-hour days or 7.5-hour days or whatever the configuration is, they add more hours so that it's 10-hour days, for example, Monday to Thursday. I'm just using that as an example. And that way it's the same number of hours, but everybody gets this 3-day time frame off, 3 days in a row off. So that would be new scheduling, same number of hours, same pay, just a different schedule. And it was a really common thing in healthcare to have schedules like that. And if you're at work anyway, why not work the extra couple of hours and then have that 3 days off, right? To give you a 3-day weekend. Another way to do it, so you can do that, you can add hours to the days that already, add extra hours to the 4 days so that you get the third day off. But another way to do it is to pay the employees the same, to give them the extra day off, but to expect them to work at 100% efficiency. Now, I don't know how realistic that is. The study so far says it is. So you're paying 80%, but you're expecting them to be doing all of the things they need to do within that 4-day time frame. So it would be up to the employee to get everything done so that they could have that time off. So that is another way to do it. Some companies will spread the days off around so that people can choose if they want to have Mondays off or Fridays off, or maybe they want to have a day off in the middle of the week so they can help out in their child's classroom, or they can attend a course, or they can help with caregiving for their grandchildren or their parents. There's lots of reasons, or maybe book all of their doctor's appointments and dental appointments and car tune-ups and all that kind of stuff on a weekday when it's not so busy and when it doesn't naturally fall on a long weekend or a holiday. So there's lots of reasons why this might work. Another thing that I did not mention earlier with the study is that the study found there was zero change to the revenue of the companies involved in the study during the trial period. In fact, some of the companies were able to provide data to the researchers and were able to show that during the 6 months, revenue increased and sometimes dramatically, like 35% when compared to the same 6-month period the year before. So this was in 2022. They would have been comparing it to 2021. So for those companies, doing this was a win-win, right? They had happier workers and employees, happier workers, less stressed, everybody's feeling good, and their revenue went up. So why wouldn't you do this? It seems that having the extra day off is very motivating for people. And again, it's not a new idea, right? This idea has been around for quite some time. But since the pandemic, there seems to be a shift. Something has shifted. Some people got used to working at home and got used to having flexibility, got used to not being in the office. There's always people that are going to take advantage of those things in a bad way, and this will be the same. And I completely understand that there were people that were not off baking sourdough and twiddling their thumbs. There were an awful lot of people that had to work. Healthcare workers, for instance. And, there were lots and lots of us that did not get to sit around. I was working at home, but we had to suddenly pivot and figure out how the heck to do online church when most of us had never done that before. So there were lots and lots of instances where people suddenly had to do the same amount of work, but do it in a whole new way. And this is kind of that thing, right? You're doing the same amount of work, but this is the option of maybe doing it in a new way. So there could be less sick time, there could be less stress leave, there could be less burnout of employees if there was a bit more spaciousness in their week. Happiness does factor in, well-being does factor in. In 2022, 2022, I believe, Microsoft Japan went to a 4-day work week, and it just closed its offices every Friday in August, and were paying their employees the same as if they had worked the full 5 days. And again, positive things ensued. The company said that labor productivity rose by nearly 40% compared to the August 2018. And so they believed that this was a good thing. Now, I am not sure if they have implemented it permanently, but they may have. They may be one of the ones that has gone the way of full implementation of this. With this kind of model, closing the whole shop 1 day a week, this kind of model could help businesses to save on costs associated with being open 1 day a week, energy costs, heating costs, overhead expenses, etc., etc. But that's a big thing, to have your company not open, and that wouldn't work for storefronts necessarily. I did hear a program the other day on this topic, a radio program, which gave me the idea for it, where someone was calling in and saying, why couldn't stores be open later then? If employees could have, you don't want to reduce your number of employees. That's not good for the employees themselves. Everybody wants to keep their job, but could you rotate things around and increase their hours and maybe have later opening hours? And they were talking about things like doctors' offices, dental clinics, things that normally close down, like banks close down at business hours. Could you not keep some things open later then if you shortened people's work weeks and rotated things around? Maybe you'd hire more people. I don't know, and get more revenue. It could be an interesting thing to do that. It's not for everyone. Businesses that have a high degree of customer service or that have strict deadlines might find that this 4-day work week is too disruptive for their operations. I also heard a construction worker on the same call recently say that there's no way that they could take a day off, an extra day off. They barely get the weekends off when they're working as hard and as fast as they can to get the job finished, because that's a very particular trade, and this is true for many of the trades when there are deadlines involved in getting things built and getting things finished. And then, of course, there's slow times of the year. But road construction, a lot of these blue collar construction building type jobs that depend on weather and depend on a number of factors, they're used to working 50, 60 hours in the high season. And so this would absolutely not work. And another thing this person said was a lot of these jobs are very physical in nature, and you're exhausted at the end of a shift anyway. So the idea of adding more hours on to an already long, physically hard day is not attractive. So, and then some companies also find the whole thing too challenging to even begin to implement, especially if you are doing the route where you're not shutting your whole company down for a day, but instead you're letting people have a day off at either end of the week or sometimes in the middle. There was a London-based research company called Wellcome Trust. They tried it, but in the end, they stopped it. They discontinued it. They had tried it with 800 of their head office staff, and they said it was just too operationally complex to implement. I can understand with 800 people that might be too hard. If you had 20 people in your company, or even 200 people, it might be doable, but 800 might be a little bit too complex to start with. And if everyone's on a different schedule, another thing is the work relationships might suffer. Trying to collaborate with people and having any idea when they're around, if you're working on a team and everybody's on a different schedule, that could be frustrating. Getting projects done, etc. So there's certainly drawbacks, right? So what can we take away from this? Well, I think the 4-day work week can work. for some. If you have a life that would benefit from this kind of a schedule and you're looking for work, then you might actually look for job descriptions and postings that include some flexibility, that offer ways to shift up the Monday to Friday 9 to 5 thing so that you can have a little bit more of that spaciousness in your week. And if you prefer to do things after work with family or friends, then this might not be for you. The thing is, it's still early in the experimentation phase, even though this idea has been around for some time now. The old 5-day work week was invented for the factory workers, and that was years and years and years ago. Really a long time ago. And so maybe it's about time for an upgrade, for a rethink of how we do the work week. So I would love to know what you think. Send me a note or a comment underneath the video if you're watching this on the YouTube video, or send me an email, info@careersbyjen.com. Let me know if you've tried a 4-day work week, and did you like it, or did you love it, or did you not? I'm super curious. You can also let me know on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or anywhere like that. I'm at Careers by Jen everywhere. But I am really curious about whether or not you think this is something that you would like, or that the company that you work at might be willing to consider even for a couple of months. Maybe they try it over the summer and just see how that worked. I also, before we wrap up, want to thank those of you who sent in the letters to yourself after the last podcast episode. They were beautiful and they were thoughtful, and some of them were funny, and I really enjoyed reading them, and I will be getting in touch with those of you who sent me letters very soon. It's not too late to send me your letter, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the last podcast episode before this one, because I told a story and read a letter that I had written to myself about some goals that in the end I actually did achieve. But reading the letter was really an interesting experience for me. I hope you found it. Clearly some of you found it interesting. And at the end I asked if you would do the same and then send it to me. So I hope, check that out if you haven't already. Thank you for listening to the Careers by Jen podcast. I am delighted to be back. Right now I'm doing every 2 weeks as a publication because I'm working hard over on YouTube as well. But it's fun to be back in this space and in this chair, and I am so grateful for all of you who are listening and watching. So until next time, thank you, my friend. Take good